Right now on Denver 7 News at 4, gas prices are already on the rise. How the changing of the seasons could cause them to jump even more.
The pandemic encouraged millions of people to retire early. How one industry is now trying to get those older adults back in the workforce. And rising rent prices are making it challenging for small businesses. The new solution helping those owners to stay in their stores long term.
And we break down the plan that could keep criminal offenders out of jail, where they'd go instead. But we start today with breaking news. Just a short time ago in Washington, the U.S. Senate unanimously passed a bill that would make daylight saving time permanent starting next year. Now, that bill still needs approval by the House and the president's signature before it becomes law, but it could mean that this would be the last year you'd have to change your clocks back in the fall. It would also mean your kids may be going to school in the winter before the sun comes up. Now, you can see more of the pros and cons of permanent daylight saving time in a 360 report available to watch right now for free on the Denver 7 app. Lawmakers in the Colorado capital are considering a plan that would divert some criminals to mental health treatment instead of jail. Senate Bill 10 calls for people who commit crimes to be screened as part of their jail intake to see whether they face mental or substance abuse issues. Some low-level offenders would then be diverted into treatment rather than jail.
So they don't have to make a plea, they don't get sentenced, they're just diverted out of the system into community treatment for that period of time, at which point, at the end of it, if they haven't reoffended and they're progressing through the treatment, presumptively the charges could be dismissed.
Now, the idea comes from a pilot program that has been in place for the past couple of years in counties like Boulder. Boulder tells Denver 7 the program has had a 90% success rate. A new study is showing the impact of COVID-19 on a person's mental health. The study reviewed almost 250,000 people, about 4% of whom tested positive for COVID. Now, researchers found those who tested positive were more likely to experience lingering feelings of depression that lasted about 2 months. They found those who suffered more serious cases of COVID that kept them bedridden for a week or more were more likely to experience depression 16 months later. There is a new mental health support line available for parents and caregivers of any child under the age of 6.
If you have concerns about your child's behavior, if you're experiencing parenting stress, if your child has really big emotions, that consultant is there to listen to what concerns that you have, help you problem solve, help you talk through that, and then ultimately connect you to resources in your local communities.
Now, officials stress this is a support line, not a crisis line. The number to call is 833-ECMH-411, which stands for Early Childhood Mental Health 411. It is a free call.
The White House has a new plan that it's hoping will improve supply chain issues. It's called Flow and will focus on how information is shared between companies for smoother shipping. If it works, Flow would speed up delivery times and lower prices at the store. The plan will be led by the Department of Transportation and include private businesses, trucking companies, and logistics firms. Today is Equal Pay Day. It marks how far into the year women must work to earn the same amount of money that men earned the year before. About 3 months into 2022, this is the fastest Equal Pay Day that has come around in 26 years. An executive order today encourages a ban on federal contractors seeking prior salary history on applicants. And the Labor Department is working to strengthen payroll audits for federal contractors. Now, this would help to protect against gender pay disparities.
Louisville City Council will discuss the Marshall Fire debris removal contract with Boulder County tonight. There's also a first reading for 2 ordinances to opt fire victims out of certain building codes. Now, the city adopted these new energy efficient building codes in November just before the fire. We've told you about them before. Under them, builders have to install things like high efficiency windows, insulation, and siding. Homeowners who lost everything say these additions are too expensive for them to rebuild. Tonight's meeting starts at 6. Boulder County is also holding a meeting tonight about wildfires, only this one is about reducing wildfire risk. Now, FireWise is a nationwide program to help anyone living in wildfire areas. One example is in Larkspur, where neighbors do fire mitigation twice a year. FireWise encourages neighbors to work with each other to reduce the wildfire risk.
It comes with science-based recommendations for individual homes and their surrounding, what we call the home ignition zone. So typically that's 0 to 100 feet out from the base of the structure. And it's all about ways to harden your home against embers and wildfire. And then within vegetation, it's about managing in the different parts of the home ignition zone to help prevent fire spread.
Now, you can get started by removing pine needles, leaves, and dead vegetation near your home. Cutting back trees that hang over your home, porch, or deck. And instead of flammable mulch, use something like crushed stone or gravel within 5 feet of your home.
While life-saving cancer treatments can be harsh on the body and cause long-term side effects, new research from Ohio State is looking into how this impacts older Americans when it comes to quality of life and being able to live on their own. Lymphedema is an almost inevitable side effect for cancer survivors and can have a big impact on mobility.
When there's an accident, it causes a backup on the freeway. So if we think of our lymph system as a freeway in our body, and there is a disruption of the flow caused by either surgery to remove lymph nodes because of a cancerous condition, or even radiation.
Lymphedema can cause swelling, pain, and heaviness in both the arms and legs. You can see here in these photos by the Lymphedema Advocacy Group of its progression. Ohio State found that this disproportionately affected older colorectal cancer survivors. About 22% reported needing help with daily activities like walking, standing for long periods of time, and lifting things. Severe cases of lymphedema can lead to a loss of a limb, but if it's caught early enough, it can be managed.
The survivor needs to be educated in terms of what lymphedema is, what to look out for, and when to seek help.
So it's the compression garments that allow people with lymphedema to live full and healthy lives, to continue working, caring for their families, and really being productive members of society.
But those compression garments she mentioned can be expensive. Depending on how severe a person's condition is, it can run anywhere between $75 to $1,000 and usually needs to be replaced every 6 months. And cancer survivors aren't the only ones this impacts.
I have a now 15-year-old son who was born with primary lymphedema. And when he was 7 months old, he was prescribed his first set of compression garments, which we knew by that point he would have to utilize those for the rest of his life. And our insurance company did not cover them because they were following the standards set by Medicare.
And she's working to change that with a bill in Congress. The Lymphedema Treatment Act would allow Medicare to prescribe compression garments, which means less financial strain on patients. You can learn more about it at lymphedema-treatmentact.org. Making your donation to help the people of Ukraine go further, how kids are getting involved, and the things you may not realize are desperately needed, and how to make sure your donations get to the right place.
Also ahead, we'll tell you what's in truckloads of donations collected in Colorado today that are now headed to Ukraine. And Easter services are returning to Red Rocks this year. We've got the details when Denver 7 News at 4 returns.